Smoke rose from the ruins of the human colony. Commander An walked alone through the debris, her heavy boots crushing broken glass with each step. The attack had been quick and brutal. By the time her Caridian battle unit arrived, the Vespid raiders were gone. An's purple skin was marked with scars from 100 battles. Her yellow eyes scanned the destruction, looking for survivors. But there was only silence. The smell of burned metal and worse things filled the air. "Report," she said into her wrist communicator. "No survivors found, Commander," Officer Tay's voice replied. "The east sector is clear." An grunted. This was the third human colony hit this month. The peace between humans and Caridians was still new. Many did not want it to last. The Vespids were breaking treaties, but no one seemed to care. She kicked aside a fallen door and moved deeper into what was once a small research building. Her scanner showed no life signs, but An trusted her instincts more than machines. Something had drawn her to this place. A soft sound broke the silence. An froze, her hand moving to her weapon. She listened. There it was again, a sound no Caridian soldier expected to hear in this dead place. A baby's cry. An moved quickly, following the sound to a fallen wall panel. She lifted it with ease, her Caridian strength making the heavy metal seem light. There, wrapped in a thermal blanket, lay a human infant. "How are you alive, little one?" An whispered, her normally harsh voice unusually soft. The baby's cries stopped as it looked up at An. Most human children would scream at the sight of a 7-foot Caridian warrior with purple skin and sharp teeth. But this baby just stared with wide eyes. An knelt down. Her scanner showed the infant was female, approximately 6 months old by human standards, and surprisingly healthy. A small tag on the blanket read Jew. "Jew," An said, testing the simple name on her tongue. Her wrist communicator buzzed. "Commander, we need to leave soon. Vespid patrols might return." An looked at the baby. Protocol said to report all survivors to High Command. The humans were still new to the galactic community. Their biology was of great interest to Caridian scientists. But something stirred in An's chest, a feeling she had buried long ago after the death of her own offspring in the Great War, the protective instinct that went beyond duty. With gentle claws, she picked up the baby, who reached out and grabbed one of her armored fingers. An felt something break inside her, a wall of ice that had protected her heart for decades. "Commander An, did you find something?" Tay's voice came again. An made her decision. Nothing of importance. She lied, the first time she had ever been dishonest with her crew. "I'll return to the ship shortly." She wrapped the baby more securely in the blanket. In her 20 years as a warrior, An had killed more enemies than she could count. She had led armies and won impossible battles. But now, holding this fragile human child, she faced her greatest challenge. "I will keep you safe," she promised the baby, who made a small gurgling sound in response. "Whatever it takes." As An walked back to her ship with the hidden child, she knew she was breaking every rule in the Caridian military code. Her career, her honor, perhaps even her life, would be at risk. But looking down at baby Jew's face, Commander An, the most feared Caridian warrior in 3 star systems, knew one thing with absolute certainty. This human child was now under her protection, and anyone who tried to harm her would face the full fury of a battle-hardened alien who had found something worth fighting for beyond war itself. Commander An's battle cruiser hummed as it left the planet's atmosphere. Baby Jew was hidden in An's private quarters, wrapped in blankets inside a storage container modified to be safe and comfortable. An stood on the bridge, her face calm despite the storm in her mind. Officer Tay approached her, his yellow eyes narrowed with concern. "Commander, the men report no survivors," he said. "Should we inform High Command about the attack?" "Yes," An replied. "Tell them the Vespids have attacked another human colony. All dead." Ta nodded and turned to leave, but stopped. "Commander, may I speak freely?" "When have I ever stopped you, Ta?" "You seem different since the surface. Did something happen down there? An looked at her second in command. They had fought together for 12 years. If she could trust anyone, it was Ta. But trust had limits, even among warriors. I need to check something in my quarters, she said, ignoring his question. You have the bridge. In her room, An locked the door and opened the container. Baby Ju was awake, making small noises but not crying. An picked her up carefully. You are a quiet one, she said. Good. We need to keep you secret for now. An activated her computer and searched for information about human infants. Her screen filled with data about human babies, what they ate, how they slept, their development. It was much different from Caridian young. This will be difficult, she told Ju. But I have faced worse challenges. A memory flashed in An's mind. Her own child, lost in the bombing of their home city 20 years ago. The pain had never fully healed. The door chimed. An quickly placed Ju back in the container and covered it. Enter, she called. Ta walked in, carrying a data tablet. Commander, I have the full scan results from the colony. He paused, sniffing the air. What is that smell? An moved between Ta and the container. What did the scans show? The colony was a research station, Ta said, still looking around curiously. They were studying human genetics. High Command will be very interested. Why? Humans are still new to us. Their adaptability is unusual. Some believe they could be valuable allies or dangerous enemies. A small sound came from the container. Ta's head turned sharply. What was that? He asked. An made her decision. She moved to the container and lifted out baby Ju. Ta's eyes widened. A human infant. Commander, why didn't you report this? Because I knew what would happen, An said. High Command would take her for study. She would become a test subject, not a child. That is not our concern, Ta said. We are warriors, not caretakers. I was a mother once, An said quietly. Ta fell silent. Everyone knew An's story, but no one ever spoke of it. What do you plan to do? He finally asked. Find other humans who can care for her. There's an outpost in the Sigma sector with a human presence. And until then, I will protect her. Ta shook his head. This violates every protocol. If High Command learns, will they learn from you? An asked, her voice hard. Ta looked at the baby, then at his commander. His shoulders dropped. No, but this is dangerous, An. Not just for your career. For all of us. I've made my decision. Ta nodded slowly. Then I will help you. The child needs proper food and care. I can program the synthesizer to create human infant formula. Relief washed over An. Thank you, old friend. Don't thank me yet, Ta said grimly. This may be the first battle we cannot win. As he left, An looked down at Ju, who had fallen asleep in her arms. We will win, she whispered, because this time I fight for something more important than victory. 3 days passed on the Caridian battle cruiser. An had turned part of her quarters into a space for baby Ju. She used spare parts to build a small crib and worked with Ta to make the right food for a human infant. She is eating well, Ta said, watching Ju finish her formula. That is a good sign. An nodded. The ship's computer says human babies need more sleep than Caridian young, and they are much more fragile. Like all humans, Ta said, I still do not understand why such weak creatures have spread so far across the stars. An looked down at Ju, who was now playing with a toy An had made from soft fabric and wires. They may be physically weak, but they have other strengths. They adapt quickly. They are creative. You sound like you admire them, Ta said with surprise. Know your enemy, Ta. It is the first rule of war. Is that why you took this child? To learn about humans? An didn't answer. She wasn't sure herself why she had made this choice. A ship's alarm suddenly blared. Red lights flashed in the room. Commander to the bridge, a voice called over the speaker. On quickly put Ju back in her crib. Stay with her, she told Ta. On the bridge, her crew stood at battle stations. Lieutenant Doc turned to her. Commander, we've detected another ship following us. Vespid design. On's eyes narrowed. How did they find us? Unknown. They appeared at the edge of our scanner range 1 hour ago. Are they gaining on us? Slowly. Commander. On studied the star map. Change course. Head for the asteroid field in Sector 7. That's dangerous, Commander, Doc said. Yes. For them too. On took her command chair. Full power to engines. The ship surged forward. Behind them, the Vespid ship adjusted course to follow. They're still coming, Doc reported. Good, On said. Let's see how badly they want us. The battle cruiser raced toward the asteroid field, a dangerous maze of spinning rocks and ice chunks. On took manual control, guiding the ship with the skill of a veteran pilot. Incoming transmission, Doc said. From the Vespid ship. Put it through. A harsh voice filled the bridge. Caridian vessel, this is Captain Krell of the Vespid Hunters. You have something that belongs to us. On felt cold fear grip her heart. Could they know about you? This is Commander On. We have nothing of yours. Leave or be destroyed. The human child, Commander. Our sensors detect its biosigns. Give it to us, and you may live. Doc and the other officers looked at On in confusion. She ignored them. You are mistaken, she said firmly. There is no human on this ship. Then you won't mind if we board and check, Krell said. The child is valuable. Its parents were leading researchers. Their work is worth much to certain parties. On cut the transmission. Prepare all weapons. We fight. Commander, Doc said. What is this about a human child? Later, On snapped. Now we must lose them or destroy them. She pushed the ship deeper into the asteroid field, weaving between massive rocks that could crush them with a single hit. The Vespid ship followed, but more slowly. Back in her quarters, Ta heard the battle alert and picked up baby Ju. He opened a hidden compartment in the wall and placed her inside with her blanket and food. Stay quiet, little one, he whispered. Your protector will return soon. On the bridge, On watched as a large asteroid drifted between their ship and the Vespids. Fire torpedoes at the asteroid, she ordered. Full spread. The weapons hit the giant rock, shattering it into thousands of pieces that flew toward the Vespid ship. Their scanners showed the enemy vessel taking heavy damage. They're falling back, Doc reported. On nodded. Set course for Outpost Delta. Maximum speed. As the ship accelerated away, On thought of Ju. The Vespids knew about her. They knew about her parents. This was no longer just about saving a child. Now On needed to find out why a baby girl was worth hunting across the stars. On faced her crew on the bridge. They all stared at her, waiting for answers. Yes, she said before they could ask. There is a human child on this ship. I found her at the colony. She was the only survivor. Lieutenant Doc stepped forward. Why did you hide this from us, Commander? Because I knew how some would react, On said. The child is not a weapon or a test subject. She is a baby who needs protection. The Vespids want her, Officer Hand said. Why? On paced the bridge. Her parents were researchers. The Vespids said their work is valuable. So we are all risking our lives for one human baby? Asked Doc. On stopped and faced him. I am not asking you to risk anything. When we reach the next port, anyone who wishes to leave may do so. The bridge fell silent. Then Tai spoke up from the doorway. I will stay with the commander, he said. And the child. One by one, the other officers nodded. They were loyal to On. She had led them through many battles, and they trusted her. Thank you, On said. Now we need to reach Outpost Delta without being followed. Doc, check our ship for tracking devices. Yes, Commander. As the crew returned to their duties, On went to check on Ju. The baby was sleeping peacefully in her makeshift crib, unaware of the danger around her. That night, while the ship was quiet, On's computer alerted her to a message. It was sent on a secure channel used only by high-ranking Caridian officers. Commander On said a face she recognized. General Vare of Caridian High Command. We have reports that you recovered something from the human colony. You must return to Caridian space immediately. On frowned. How did High Command know about Ju so quickly? The next morning, Doc found her. Commander, I found a tracking device hidden in our main engine. Vespid technology. I've destroyed it, but they already know where we are. On finished. There's more, Doc said. I checked our communication logs. Someone on this ship sent a message to Caridian High Command about the human baby. On's yellow eyes narrowed. Someone on my crew is a spy. It appears so, Doc said. On looked around at her ship, suddenly feeling trapped. Enemies outside, a traitor inside. But who? As they approached a small trading post to refuel, On saw another ship waiting there. A Caridian military vessel. Change course, she ordered. We can't stop here. Commander, we need fuel, Han said. We can't reach Outpost Delta without it. On thought quickly. Then we don't go to the main docks. Take us to the far side of the trading post. I know someone there who can help us. As they approached, a small ship suddenly appeared behind them. Vespid hunter ship, Doc shouted. They found us again. Defensive positions, On ordered. Protect the engines. The Vespid ship fired, hitting their rear shields. The battle cruiser shook. Return fire. On commanded. Their weapons struck the Vespid ship, damaging it but not stopping it. More shots hit them. Shields at 60%, Han reported. On went to her quarters and took Ju from her crib. The baby was crying, frightened by the noise and movement. It's okay, little one, On whispered, holding her close. I will keep you safe. She carried Ju to a small escape pod designed for emergency evacuations. On placed her inside with supplies and a tracking device only she could follow. If the ship is taken, she told Ta, who had followed her, launch this pod. I've programmed it to land at the trading post. What about you? He asked. On checked her weapon. I will give them something else to worry about. She touched Ju's small hand one last time, then returned to the bridge to face their hunters. The ship that had once been just a vessel of war now carried something far more precious, and On would destroy anyone who threatened it. The battle was short but fierce. On's ship managed to damage the Vespid vessel enough to escape, but their own engines were badly hurt. They limped toward the trading post, smoke trailing behind them. We won't be able to take off again without repairs, Doc reported. Land at the far docks, On ordered, away from the main area. The ship settled onto a small landing pad in a quiet section of the trading post. Through the windows, On could see a mix of different alien species going about their business. The trading post was neutral ground. No single species controlled it. Ta, you and Han stay with the ship and the child, On said. Doc, come with me to find parts for repairs. With her hood pulled up to hide her Caridian features, On walked through the crowded marketplace. Doc followed closely, watching for danger. Commander, he whispered, someone is following us. On didn't turn around. I know. Third shop on the left. Go in. They entered a small parts shop run by a six-armed alien who greeted them warmly. On began asking about engine parts while Doc kept watch through the window. He's outside, Doc said quietly. Human male. Brown jacket. On nodded. Buy what we need. I'll deal with him. She slipped out the back door and circled around. The human was still watching the front of the shop. He didn't notice On until she pressed her weapon against his back. Why are you following me? She demanded. The human slowly raised his hands. I saw your ship land. Caridian vessel with battle damage. Interesting. That's not an answer. On pressed the weapon harder. My name is Park, he said. I trade information. And I know that the Vespids attacked a human research colony 5 days ago. No survivors, they said. But here you are, running from Vespids. On pushed him into a quiet alley. What else do you know? I know the Vespids broke their treaty by attacking the colony, Park said. And I know they're looking for something. Or someone. On studied the human's face. He was older, with lines around his eyes. His clothes were worn but clean. Why should I trust you? She asked. Because I lost family at that colony, Park said simply. My sister and her husband were researchers there. On made a decision. Come with me. She took him back to the ship, keeping her weapon ready. When they entered, Tai jumped up in alarm. Commander, a human. He may have information we need, On said. Then she heard Ju crying. Is she okay? Just hungry, Ta said. I was about to feed her. Park's eyes widened as Todd brought out the baby. Is that a survivor from the colony? On watched him carefully. Yes. The only one. Park moved closer, staring at Ju with wonder. Her name tag. Ju. That's what my sister named her baby. My niece. The room fell silent. On looked from Park to the baby and back again. Prove it, she finally said. She has a small birthmark on her right foot, Park said. Shaped like a half-moon. Tai checked. He's right, Commander. Park reached out toward Ju, but On stepped between them. Not yet. First, tell me why the Vespids want her. Park's face hardened. My sister and her husband were leading a research project, human adaptation to alien environments. They discovered something in human DNA that could be valuable. What? On asked. A gene sequence that allows rapid adaptation. It could help any species survive in harsh environments, or it could be used to create biological weapons. On looked at the small baby. And she carries this gene. Both her parents had it. She almost certainly does too. Park looked at On with serious eyes. That's why they're hunting her. And why I'm surprised to find her with a Caridian. I found her. I protected her, On said firmly. Park studied her. Why would a Caridian warrior risk everything for a human baby? On didn't answer. Instead, she picked up Ju, who had stopped crying, and now reached for On's face with tiny hands. Watching them, Park's expression softened. Whatever your reason, thank you for saving her. 3 days passed at the trading post. On's crew worked to repair their ship while keeping watch for enemies. Park stayed with them, helping care for Ju and sharing information about human babies. She likes you, Park said, watching On rock Ju to sleep. Most human babies would be afraid of Caridian features. She is brave, On said softly, like her parents must have been. At night, when the others slept, On would tell Ju stories of Caridian heroes and sing old battle songs in a gentle voice. These quiet moments changed the fierce warrior. Her crew noticed it too. I've never seen the commander like this, Han whispered to Ta. She seems softer. Not softer, Tag corrected. Just fighting for something different now. One morning, On woke to find Ju feeling hot. The baby cried weakly and refused her food. What's wrong with her? On asked Park with worry in her voice. Park checked the baby carefully. She has fever. It could be a common human childhood illness. How do we treat it? On demanded. She needs human medicine, Park said. There's a medical center in the main part of the trading post. On stood immediately. I'll get it. Commander, Doc said, it's too dangerous. The Vespids and Caridian forces might be watching the medical center. I don't care, On said. Get the ship ready to leave. We go when I return. On disguised herself with a trader's cloak and left for the medical center. Park gave her a list of medicines to find. The main area of the trading post was busy with beings from many worlds. On kept her head down and moved quickly. At the medical center, she found the human section and collected the medicines. As she turned to leave, she saw two Vespid soldiers enter the building. They hadn't seen her yet. On slipped into a side room and waited. Through the crack in the door, she heard them asking about a Caridian ship. They were still hunting her. When they moved away, On took a different exit and hurried back toward her ship. She was halfway there when three figures stepped out to block her path. Vespid hunters, with weapons ready. "Commander On," one said, "our captain wants to speak with you." On's hand moved to her own weapon. "I have nothing to say to Vespids who break treaties and attack peaceful colonies. Give us the human child," another said. "It belongs to us now." "She belongs to no one," On growled, her Caridian temper rising. "And you will not touch her." The Vespids raised their weapons. "Then we'll take her from your dead body." What happened next was so fast that witnesses later argued about what they saw. On moved like lightning, drawing her weapon and firing in one smooth motion. The first Vespid fell before the others could react. On rolled sideways as they fired, their shots hitting the wall behind her. She came up firing again, taking down the second hunter. The third got off a shot that grazed On's arm, burning through her cloak. She ignored the pain and charged forward, knocking the Vespid down and pressing her weapon to his head. "Tell your captain," On said in a low, dangerous voice, "that the child is under my protection. Anyone who tries to take her will die." "Understood." The Vespid nodded quickly. On let him go and raced back to her ship, the precious medicines clutched in her hand. When she arrived, Ta met her at the door. "Commander, you're hurt." "It's nothing," On said, pushing past him. "How is Ju?" In her quarters, Hark was holding the crying baby. "Her fever is worse." On opened the medicines and followed Park's instructions to prepare them. As she gave Ju the medicine, the baby grabbed her finger and held on tight. "Fight, little warrior," On whispered. "I know you can." Through the night, On stayed by Ju's side. She refused to rest or let anyone else watch over the baby. By morning, Ju's fever had broken. When the baby smiled up at her, On felt a joy she hadn't known in 20 years. She knew then that she would die before letting anyone take this child from her. The repairs to On's ship were finally complete. They prepared to leave the trading post and continue their journey to Outpost Delta, where Park said more humans lived who could help protect Ju. "We should reach the outpost in 2 days," Ta told On as they prepared for takeoff. On nodded, holding Ju in her arms. The baby had fully recovered from her illness and was playing with a small toy On had made. "Park," On said to the human, who was checking supplies, "are you certain we will find help at Outpost Delta?" "Yes," Park answered. "I have friends there, scientists who worked with my sister. They will understand how important Ju is." As the ship lifted off, On felt uneasy. Something wasn't right. She had survived many battles by trusting her instincts, and now they were warning her of danger. "Ta, run a full scan of the area," she ordered. "Make sure we're not being followed." Ta checked the scanners. "No ships detected, Commander." On wasn't satisfied. "Check again, and scan our own ship too." While Ta worked, On put Ju down for a nap. The baby fell asleep quickly, holding onto On's finger. Watching her, On made a silent promise to keep her safe, no matter what. Tay's voice came urgently over the ship's communication system. "Commander, I found something. You need to see this." In the engine room, Ta showed On a small device hidden deep in the ship's systems. "It's a tracker," Ta explained. "But not Vespid technology this time." "What is it?" On asked, though she already feared the answer. "Caridian military," Ta said grimly. "Someone on this ship is reporting to High Command." On's mind raced. Who has access to the engine systems? "Only Dok, Han, and myself," Ta said. On didn't want to suspect her loyal crew, but someone had betrayed her, and now Caridian forces would know exactly where they were going. Back on the bridge, On carefully watched Dok and Han as they worked. Nothing in their behavior seemed suspicious. Then she noticed Han sending a message without logging it in the ship's system. Quietly, An moved to her private terminal and accessed the hidden communication channels. There it was, a message from her ship to Caridian High Command. Heading to Outpost Delta, ETA 48 hours. Human child on board. Anger burned in An's chest, but she kept her face calm. She needed to know who else might be involved. That night, An called a meeting of all crew members. She placed Ju in Park's care and faced her officers. "We will reach Outpost Delta tomorrow," she said, "but I have discovered something disturbing. One of you has been sending messages to High Command about our mission and the child." Doc and Han exchanged looks. Ta stepped forward, his hand on his weapon. "Who is the traitor, Commander?" he asked. An was about to speak when the ship suddenly shook violently. Alarm bells rang throughout the vessel. "We're under attack," Doc shouted, rushing to the controls. On the view screen, they saw a large Caridian warship directly ahead. It had been waiting for them. "How did they know our exact course?" Han asked, looking worried. "Because someone told them," An said coldly. She turned to Ta. "Isn't that right, old friend?" Ta's expression changed. He moved quickly, drawing his weapon and pointing it at An. "I'm sorry, Commander," he said, "but your obsession with this human child has clouded your judgment. The Caridian High Command needs her for study." "You've been betraying us all along," An said, her voice filled with pain and anger. "Since the colony. I've served the Caridian Empire for 30 years, Ta replied. "My loyalty is to our people first." As they faced each other, the ship rocked again with another hit from the warship. "Surrender the child," Ta demanded, "or we all die here." An looked at her second-in-command, the officer she had trusted for years. "I would rather die than give her to people who would use her as a weapon." Ta sighed. "Then you leave me no choice, Commander." He fired his weapon, but An had been ready. She dove sideways as Doc tackled Ta from behind. In the chaos, Park grabbed Ju and ran toward the escape pods. "Go," An shouted to him. "I'll find you." As Park fled with the baby, An faced the officer who had betrayed her trust and the warship that threatened everything she now fought for. Chaos filled the bridge as An fought with Ta. Doc and Han tried to keep the ship running while dodging weapon fire. Outside, the Caridian warship continued its attack. "Commander," Han shouted over the noise, "they're trying to lock on to disable our engines." An knocked Ta's weapon away and pinned him to the floor. "Wide, Ta. We fought together for years. The human child could give our people an advantage in the coming wars," Ta said. "One child for the good of our entire species." "She's not just one child to me," An growled. Another blast hit the ship, throwing them both sideways. An recovered quickly and grabbed Ta's fallen weapon. "Doc, Han, get to the escape pods," she ordered. "I'll handle Ta and buy you time." "We won't leave you, Commander," Doc protested. "That's an order," An shouted. "Someone needs to help Park protect Ju." Reluctantly, Doc and Han left the bridge. An turned back to Ta, who was getting to his feet. "You've changed, An," he said. "The commander I knew would never put one life above the mission." "Perhaps I needed to change," An replied. "Now help me contact the warship." "You're surrendering?" Ta asked with surprise. "No," An said. "I'm going to show them what happens when they threaten someone under my protection." An pushed Ta toward the communication console. "Open a channel to the warship and to all nearby ships. Make it a public broadcast." Ta hesitated, then did as she ordered. A stern Caridian face appeared on the screen. General Ver of High Command. "Commander An," he said, "surrender your ship and the human specimen immediately." "I have evidence you should see first, General," An replied calmly. She connected her personal device to the console and began transmitting data. "This is footage from the human colony before it was destroyed," she explained. "It shows Vespid ships attacking without provocation, breaking our peace treaty. The screen showed clear images of the attack. And this, On continued, is a data file showing why they attacked. The humans discovered a gene that allows rapid adaptation to any environment. The Vespids want it for weapons. And apparently, so does Caridian High Command. General Var's face hardened. This is not your concern, Commander. Your duty is to follow orders. My duty is to honor the Caridian Warrior Code. On countered. We do not harm children. We do not break treaties. We do not become the very monsters we claim to fight. She looked around at her damaged ship. I am broadcasting this to every ship in range. Everyone will know what was done at that colony and why. Everyone will know that Caridian High Command worked with Vespids to slaughter innocent researchers. You are a traitor to your people. Var shouted. No, On said firmly. I am keeping us true to what we should be. The warship fired again, hitting a critical system. The bridge erupted in flames and smoke. On, Ta shouted, pushing her away from a falling beam. It crashed down on him instead. On pulled Ta from the debris. He was badly hurt. Why did you save me? She asked. Because you were right, he whispered. Go, find the child. On helped Ta to the last escape pod. As they launched away from the burning ship, she saw other Caridian vessels arriving. Her broadcast had reached them. Through the pod's small window, On watched her ship explode in a ball of fire. Beside her, Tay's breathing grew weaker. The others, where would they go? On asked him. Emergency plan. Outpost on. Moon 3, Ta said with effort. On. I'm sorry. Save your strength, she told him. We'll find you together. But Tay's eyes closed, and On knew he was gone. She had lost her ship, her oldest friend, and maybe more. But she had revealed the truth, and somewhere, Park was protecting Ju. On set course for Moon 3, ignoring her own injuries. Her last stand wasn't over yet. Not while Ju still needed her protection. On's escape pod landed roughly on Moon 3, a small outpost far from main travel routes. Her wounds made it hard to walk, but she pushed forward, following the emergency beacon that would lead her to the others. The moon had a breathable atmosphere that was cold and rocky. On pulled her torn uniform tighter around her body and kept moving. Her scanner showed a small settlement 2 miles ahead. As she approached, she saw guards at the entrance. Human guards. They raised their weapons when they spotted her. Stop there, Caridian, one shouted. On raised her hand slowly. I am Commander On. I'm looking for Park and a baby named Ju. The guards exchanged looks. How do we know you're not with the others hunting them? Because I'm the one who saved Ju from the colony, On said. I've lost my ship and crew protecting her. One guard spoke into a communicator. After a moment, he nodded to the other. Let her in. But watch her. They led On through the settlement to a small medical building. Inside, she found Park sitting beside a bed where Doc lay with a bandaged leg. Hands stood nearby. And there, in a makeshift crib, was Ju. On, Park said, standing quickly. We thought you were dead. On moved past him to check on Ju. The baby was sleeping peacefully. Relief washed over On's face as she gently touched Ju's cheek. What happened? Doc asked. After we left. I broadcast the evidence of what happened at the colony. On explained. The Vespid attack, the conspiracy, everything. My ship was destroyed, but other Caridian vessels arrived. They will have heard the truth. And Ta? Han asked. He saved my life, On said quietly. But he didn't survive. A human doctor entered the room and looked at On with concern. You need medical attention, she said, noticing On's injuries. On shook her head. First, I need to know Ju is safe. The colony leaders are meeting now to decide what to do, Park explained. Some want to turn her over to Caridian authorities to avoid conflict. No, On said firmly. I didn't come this far to lose her now. Despite her injuries, On picked up the sleeping Ju and followed Park to a large building where the colony leaders were meeting. When they entered, the room fell silent. Humans stared at the tall, purple-skinned Caridian warrior holding a human baby with such care. An older woman spoke first. "This is the Caridian who brought the child." "Yes," Park answered. "This is Commander On. She has fought her own people and the Vespids to protect my niece." "Why?" the woman asked, looking directly at On. "Why would a Caridian warrior risk everything for a human baby?" On looked down at Ju, who had awakened and was reaching for her face. "Because she needed me," On said simply. "Because protecting the innocent is what warriors should do. Because," she paused, "she became my child too." The room was quiet as the colony leaders considered this. Then a man stood up. "I fought against Caridians in the border conflicts. I never thought I'd say this, but this child has brought out something we didn't know existed in their kind. If peace is possible, perhaps it starts here." One by one, the other leaders nodded. The older woman approached On. "You and the child can stay," she said, "but the danger isn't over. Others will come looking for her." "Let them come," On said. "I will be waiting." 2 years passed. In a small house on the edge of the colony, On sat with Ju on her lap, teaching her words in both human and Caridian language. The child had grown, her dark hair now falling past her shoulders. Outside, other children played, some human, some from other species whose families had joined the growing colony. After On's broadcast, much had changed. Investigations had exposed the conspiracy. Peace treaties were strengthened. "Mama," Ju said, touching On's purple face. On smiled, her yellow eyes soft with love. "Yes, little warrior." As she held her daughter, On thought of the strange path that had led her here. She had been a soldier all her life, trained for battle and victory, but it took a small human child to teach her what she was truly meant to fight for.